The clock on my phone blinked 2:17 a.m., and the air in our cramped dorm room hung heavy with the scent of stale pizza and unwashed socks. Jordan's breath ghosted against my neck, warm and deliberate, as his body shifted. Not away, but impossibly closer. His thigh pressing into mine like a question I wasn't ready to answer. In that frozen heartbeat, with the glow of our shared laptop screen casting shadows on the peeling wallpaper, I realized the line we'd towed all semester had just shattered, and there was no going back. I remember the exact moment it started unraveling. That humid September night when freshman orientation dumped us into the shoebox of a room at NYU. New York City pulsed outside our fourth-floor window like a living thing. Honking taxis, distant sirens. The endless hum of ambition that made you feel both invincible and utterly lost. I was Alex Harper, 18 years old from a sleepy suburb in Ohio, where the biggest drama was the annual Corn Festival and coming out meant whispering secrets to your bedroom mirror. Jordan Ellis, my assigned roommate, was the polar opposite. A lanky kid from Seattle with tousled dark hair that fell into his hazel eyes, a skateboard perpetually under his arm, and a laugh that could disarm a room full of strangers. We clicked instantly, or so I thought. Late-night talks about everything from indie bands to quantum physics, trading playlists and inside jokes like currency. But that first week, when the dorm's ancient HVAC crapped out and half the floor ended up crashing on whatever surface they could claim, it was Jordan who suggested we push our 2 twin beds together. "Dude, it's like a king-size raft in a sea of chaos," he'd said, grinning that crooked smile of his, sweat beading on his forehead from the 90-degree heat. I laughed it off, slapping his shoulder a little too hard. Because why not? We were bros, after all, straight, uncomplicated bros navigating the wilds of college life. Or at least, that's what I told myself as we dragged the metal frames flush, mattresses bumping awkwardly until they formed this makeshift island in the middle of the room. The heat wave broke after 3 days, but the bed stayed. It became our default. Sprawling out after soccer pickup games in Washington Square Park, feet tangled in socks while we binge-watched old Tarantino flicks, or hunkering down for all-nighters cramming for intro psych. Jordan was pre-med, laser-focused on organic chem, while I chased a film studies degree, dreaming of directing the next big indie hit. Our differences fueled us. He'd quiz me on neurotransmitters over cold leftover lo mein, and I'd rope him into analyzing plot twists until his eyes glazed over. Felt easy, natural, like we'd been sharing secrets since birth. By mid-October, the leaves in the village were turning that fiery red-orange, and the campus buzzed with midterms. That's when the inching began, subtle at first, like the tide creeping up a beach you weren't watching. We'd be shoulder to shoulder under the thin comforter, laptops balanced on our knees, the blue light flickering across our faces as we typed away. Jordan's notes were meticulous, color-coded tabs sticking out from his textbook like flags of surrender. Mine? A chaotic sprawl of scribbled dialogue ideas and half-formed storyboards. "Pass the highlighter," he'd murmur, his voice low and gravelly from lack of sleep, and our fingers would brush, electric, but I chalked it up to static from the wool blanket. One night, as rain pelted the window like impatient fingers, he leaned in closer than usual to point at a diagram on my screen. His arm draped casually over my shoulder, thumb tracing idle circles on my bicep without him seeming to notice. Or maybe he did. "This scene's got real tension, Alex," he said, his breath warm against my ear. "The way the character's hand hesitates before touching the door. It's like he's afraid of what he'll find inside." I swallowed hard, my pulse kicking up a notch, and muttered something about subtext. But inside, my mind was reeling. Was this just Jordan being Jordan, the guy who'd high-five you after a bad dream or sling an arm around you during a rough patch? Or was there something more, simmering under the surface like the plot of one of my screenplays? I pushed it down, buried it under layers of denial and distraction. The next morning, we grabbed bagels from the cart on the corner, steam rising in the crisp fall air, and joked about the TA who'd flirted shamelessly with Jordan during office hours. "She's got that vibe, you know? Like she could dismantle a carburetor and quote Keats in the same breath," he said, tearing into his everything bagel with a wink. I forced a laugh, cream cheese sticking to the roof of my mouth, because envy wasn't something bros felt. not for each other. As November crept in, the stakes ratcheted up. Finals loomed like storm clouds over the Hudson, and our study nights stretched into marathons. The dorm emptied out on weekends, kids jetting back to Jersey or Connecticut for turkey and tradition, leaving us holed up with energy drinks and takeout Thai. One Friday, after a brutal calc exam that left Jordan cursing under his breath, we collapsed onto the bed in a heap of exhaustion. "Screw it," he groaned, kicking off his sneakers. "No more equations tonight. Tell me about that short film idea you've been hoarding." So I did, words tumbling out in the dim lamplight. A story about two friends on a road trip across Route 66, chasing ghosts of what might have been. His eyes locked on mine, intense and unblinking, and when he reached over to squeeze my knee, "That's gold, man. Pure gold." The touch lingered, his palm warm through my jeans. That night, as we drifted off back to back, I felt it. The subtle shift, his body angling toward mine in sleep, hip nestling against my lower back. I froze, heart hammering like a bass drum in a dimly lit jazz club. Part of me wanted to bolt upright, make some excuse about needing water or air. But another part, the quieter, braver one, stayed still, letting the warmth seep in, wondering what it would feel like to turn around and face whatever this was head-on. The following week brought the first real crack in our facade. We'd scored tickets to a screening at the IFC Center. Some queer indie flick about forbidden love in the 80s, Jordan's pick, because it'll inspire your directing chops. I agreed, mostly to see him light up, his face animated as he ranted about cinematography over falafel wraps from Mamoon's. In the theater, packed with artsy types nursing overpriced sodas, the screen flickered to life with grainy footage of two men stealing glances across a crowded diner. The air thickened with unspoken longing, and halfway through, Jordan's hand found mine in the dark. Not grabbing, just resting, fingers interlaced like it was the most normal thing in the world. I didn't pull away, couldn't really. The film's raw ache mirrored something clawing at my chest, a vulnerability I'd never named. When the credits rolled, we spilled out onto 6th Avenue, the city lights blurring in the drizzle. "Heavy stuff?" I said, voice rough, shoving my hands into my pockets to hide the tremor. Jordan nodded, rain slicking his hair, making him look younger, more unguarded. "Yeah, makes you think about the risks we don't take, you know? The ones that could change everything." His gaze held mine a beat too long, searching, and I mumbled about needing to beat the subway rush, fleeing into the station like a coward. Back in the dorm, the silence stretched taut as we brushed our teeth side by side in the communal bathroom, mirrors fogged from the showers. "You okay?" he asked, foam at the corner of his mouth, eyes reflecting worry in the fluorescent glare. I nodded too quickly, spitting out a lie about exam stress. But as we climbed into bed that night, the space between us felt charged, electric with unsaid words. And then it happened, the inching. Slow, deliberate. His legs sliding over mine under the covers, his chest rising and falling in sync with my own ragged breaths. I lay there, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that looked like a fractured heart, wondering if this was the moment I'd been building toward or running from all along. By December, with snow dusting the fire escapes like powdered sugar, our routine had evolved into something dangerously intimate. Study nights weren't just about notes anymore. They were confessions wrapped in caffeine highs. Jordan opened up about his family first. His mom's quiet acceptance when he came out at 16. His dad's gruff, "As long as you're happy, kid," over a backyard barbecue. "It wasn't fireworks," he admitted one evening, cross-legged on the bed with a mug of instant noodles balanced on his knee. "But it was enough. Made me who I am, no apologies." I listened, chin propped on my hand, the weight of his words settling like fresh snow. My own stories came haltingly. The high school crush on my best friend's sister that fizzled into friendship, the gnawing isolation of never quite fitting the mold back home. Ohio's not built for guys like, well, guys who question things, I said, the admission tasting like rust on my tongue. He didn't push, just nodded, his foot nudging mine under the blanket in silent solidarity. But the air hummed with possibility, every brush of skin a spark. One blustery night, as wind howled down Broadway, we hunkered down with psych flashcards. The room lit only by a string of fairy lights Jordan had strung up for ambience. His knee pressed against my thigh, steady and warm, and when our eyes met over a diagram of the amygdala, something shifted. "Alex," he whispered, voice barely audible over the gusts outside. "What if?" The door banged open before he could finish, our sweet mate Tyler stumbling in reeking of cheap beer and regret. "Yo, lovebirds, save some hot cocoa for the rest of us." Tyler slurred, collapsing onto his bunk with a thud. The moment shattered, laughter bubbling up to fill the void, but Jordan's eyes lingered on me, a promise unspoken. That interruption bought me time. Time to pretend, to scroll through Grindr out of morbid curiosity late at night when he was asleep, heart racing at the anonymity of it all. But denial has a shelf life, and mine was expiring fast. The holiday break loomed, a 2-week exile back to Ohio's flat fields, and the thought of separation twisted like a knife. "Don't ghost me while you're gone," Jordan joked over packing, tossing balled-up socks at my head. "Promise we'll pick up right where we left off." His smile didn't reach his eyes, and as I zipped my duffel, I wondered if where we left off meant the inching, the almost confessions, or the fragile friendship we'd built brick by brick. The train ride home was a blur of Greyhound seats and flickering overhead lights, my forehead pressed to the grimy window as Manhattan receded. Mom picked me up at the station in her old Civic, chattering about pie and church potlucks, but her questions about college life, "Made any nice girlfriends yet?" landed like punches. I deflected with stories of classes and parties, but Jordan haunted the edges. A text about a brutal biochem lab, a meme about Freudian slips that made me snort laugh in the passenger seat. "Who's that?" Mom asked, glancing over. "Just a friend," I said, too quickly, pocketing the phone like contraband. Back in my childhood room, posters of Spielberg films curling at the edges. Sleep evaded me. I'd replay the nights in our bed. The way his laughter vibrated through the mattress, the scent of his cedarwood shampoo mingling with mine. Was it always there, this undercurrent? Or had I imagined it, projecting my confusion onto the one person who'd made New York feel like home? Christmas Eve, as carols droned from the living room radio, I caved and called him. "Merry whatever," he answered, voice muffled like he was buried under blankets too. We talked for hours, about his sister's new puppy, my uncle's disastrous attempt at eggnog, until silence fell, heavy and expectant. "Missed the bed already," he said softly. "Miss you." My throat closed up, words failing, and I hung up with a lame same, heart pounding in the dark. New Year's brought resolutions I broke by January 5th. Hit the gym more, finish that screenplay, figure out who the hell I was. Returning to the city felt like slipping into a favorite jacket. Familiar, comforting, alive. Jordan waited at Penn Station, beanie pulled low against the sleet, a to-go coffee in each hand. "For the prodigal son," he quipped, pressing one into my fist, our fingers lingering. The walk back to the dorm was charged, steam from manholes curling around us like secrets. "Got a surprise," he said as we climbed the stairs, key jingling in the lock. Inside, the room was transformed. Fairy lights twinkling, a space heater humming softly, and on our pushed-together bed, a stack of takeout from Joe's Pizza, our ritual fuel. We ate cross-legged, grease dripping onto napkins, recounting holiday horrors with the ease of old souls. But as the slices disappeared, so did the barriers. His knee bumped mine, stayed put. "Alex," he started again. That same unfinished sentence from before, eyes earnest in the warm glow. This time, Tyler was nowhere in sight. I held my breath, the city symphony fading to a hush. "What if we've been dancing around this for months? You and me. It's not just bros anymore, is it?" The words hung there, raw and real, and in that instant, the world narrowed to his face, the vulnerability etched in every line. I could lie, laugh it off, preserve the safety net. Or I could leap. "No," I whispered, voice cracking like thin ice. "It's not." His hand found mine then, deliberate and sure, and for the first time I didn't flinch. We didn't move closer. Not yet. But the air crackled with the promise of it, the study night stretching into something far more profound. Spring semester hit like a freight train, all slushy sidewalks and syllabus overloads, but our secret bloomed in the quiet corners. It wasn't fireworks or grand gestures, no stolen kisses in the stacks at Bob's library or whispered I love yous under the Brooklyn Bridge. It was subtler, sweeter. Jordan's pinky hooking mine under the cafeteria tray, a shared glance across the lecture hall that spoke volumes. We'd still push the beds together for study efficiency. But now the inching was mutual, bodies gravitating like magnets in the night. Waking up with his arms slung over my waist felt like coming home. His steady breaths a lullaby against my shoulder blade. I dove into my film class with renewed fire, channeling the chaos into a short about unspoken desires. A barista and a regular customer exchanging loaded looks over lattes. Professor Lang, with her sharp bob and sharper critiques, pulled me aside after the screening. Harper, this has heart. Real messy heart. Lean into that vulnerability, it's your superpower. I nodded, cheeks burning, because every frame echoed Jordan. The hesitation, the pull, the quiet joy of possibility. He came to the Q&A, slouched in the back row, and afterward, over beers at the Kettle of Fish, he dissected it with that med student precision. The close-up on the hands? Killer. Made me feel seen. His foot nudged mine under the sticky table, and I grinned, the pub's raucous laughter fading to background noise. But secrets have shadows, and ours started creeping in around the edges. Tyler, ever the chaos engine, picked up on the vibes first. You two are like a rom-com waiting to happen, he teased one morning, chugging orange juice straight from the carton. When's the big confession scene? Jordan shot back with a pillow to the face, but I laughed too loud. Overcompensating. Word spread in whispers through pickup games on the quad, group chats buzzing with emojis and speculation. My straight-laced suite-mate from down the hall, Ben, cornered me in the laundry room one afternoon, detergent pods rattling in my basket. Heard you're experimenting with Ellis? Look man, no judgment, but watch your back. Frat Rose got eyes everywhere. The warning landed like a gut punch, stirring memories of high school locker room jabs. The casual homophobia masked as jokes. I brushed it off, just friends, dude. But doubt festered. What if this was a phase for me? A college curiosity that faded with the cherry blossoms. Jordan deserved more than half measures, more than a guy still untangling his own threads. That night, as we pored over his anatomy flashcards, his head on my thigh while I read aloud, the weight of it pressed down. You're quiet, he murmured, fingers tracing lazy patterns on my knee. What's eating you? I hesitated, the lie bitter on my tongue. Just midterms, and figuring shit out. He sat up, concern etching his brow. Hey, no rush. We're in this together, yeah. His kiss on my forehead was feather-light, chaste, but it ignited something fierce. A resolve to name this, to claim it. April brought Passover seders and Easter brunches. The city a kaleidoscope of faiths and freedoms. We hosted a low-key seder in the lounge. Jordan's nod to his half-Jewish heritage, with Manischewitz wine that tasted like cough syrup and matzo ball soup from a deli on Houston. Our friends crammed onto mismatched couches, laughter echoing off cinderblock walls as we retold the Exodus with dramatic flair. Midway through, Jordan caught my eye across the Haggadah, mouthing Nerdfest with a smirk. I nearly choked on my carousel, the simple joy of it washing away the week's tensions. Later, as we cleaned up, his hand slipped into mine behind the stacks of paper plates. This, us, feels right, he whispered, and for once, I believed him without reservation. But the world outside our bubble wasn't as kind. Mid-month, during a rare free afternoon, we wandered into Washington Square Park, arching under the Washington Irving statue with ice cream cones dripping in the unseasonable warmth. Street performers juggled fire, tourists snapped selfies, and for a moment, it was perfect, until a group of bros from the business school sauntered by, one slinging a meaty arm around his buddy. Check the lovebirds. the loud one drawled, voice laced with beer and bravado. Bet they're shooting their OnlyFans right here. Laughter erupted, sharp as broken glass, and Jordan's grip tightened on my hand, knuckles white. I wanted to fire back, to channel every Tarantino dialogue I'd memorized, but fear glued my tongue. We hurried away, cones melting forgotten in our fists, the park's magic soured. Back in the room, the silence was deafening. Jordan paced, skateboard tucked under his arm like a shield. Fuck them. He spat, but his eyes glistened. Why do we let assholes like that win? I pulled him down onto the bed, our bodies fitting together like puzzle pieces worn smooth. We don't, I said, voice steadier than I felt. Their noise. This, I gestured between us, words failing. This is signal. He searched my face, then leaned in, our first real kiss tentative, tasting of vanilla and vanilla resolve. It deepened slowly, hands exploring with the reverence of explorers charting new lands. Fingers in hair, palms on cheeks, breaths mingling until the world outside ceased to exist. From there, the romance unfurled like a well-scripted montage. Study breaks in hidden alcoves of the library, where we'd steal moments of quiet intimacy. Weekend hikes up to the High Line, hands brushing amid wildflowers and skyline views. Late-night diner runs to TikToks for greasy comfort after his ER volunteer shifts. Jordan opened up more, sharing stories of his first crush. A summer camp counselor who taught him to sail and, unknowingly, to dream. I was 12, thought it was hero worship. Took years to name it. I reciprocated with fragments of my own awakening. The actor in a school play whose laugh had lingered too long. The way certain songs now hit different in his presence. It was humanistic in its messiness. No pedestals, just two guys muddling through, learning each other's rhythms. Yet conflict brewed, insidious and inevitable. Finals week arrived with a vengeance, turning our haven into a war zone of highlighters and Red Bull cans. I was drowning in a group project for film theory, partners flaking left and right, while Jordan pulled double shifts tutoring underclassmen. Tempers frayed. Snapped pencils, slammed textbooks, and one night, it boiled over. You're always half here, he accused, voice raw from exhaustion, as I scrolled emails instead of joining him on the bed. Like you're waiting for an out. The words stung, echoing my deepest fears. Maybe I am. I shot back. Regret instant but damage done. He recoiled, hurt flashing across his face like lightning. Then go. If this is just a detour for you, spare us both. The door slammed behind him, leaving me in the wreckage. Flashcards scattered like fallen leaves, the bed suddenly vast and cold. I didn't chase him. Pride or fear held me back. Hours ticked by in agonizing silence, my phone dark, until a text buzzed at dawn. Crashed at Tyler's. Need space. Talk tomorrow? I typed apologies into the void, deleted them, paced until the floorboards creaked in protest. Sleep came fitful, dreams tangled with betrayal and loss, waking to the gray light of a city that felt indifferent. Morning brought reconciliation, tentative as spring thaw. He returned with 2 coffees and a sheepish grin, bags under his eyes mirroring mine. I'm an idiot, he said, handing over the cup. And scared. This matters too much. We talked. Really talked. Sprawled on the floor amid the debris, voices low and honest. My fears of labels, of disappointing the family back home. His dread of history repeating, of loving someone not ready to love back. We're not perfect, I admitted, lacing our fingers. But we're real. The makeup was slow, a bridge rebuilt plank by plank, ending with him curled against me. Head on my chest, the steady thump of my heart his forgiveness. Graduation loomed distant, but summer internships cast long shadows. Jordan landed a spot at Mount Sinai, shadowing surgeons in the bustling ER. A dream gig that meant 12-hour days and 0 free time. I scored an unpaid PA role on a low-budget indie in Brooklyn, hauling gear from set to set amid the grit of Red Hook warehouses. Our schedules clashed like cymbals, stolen moments squeezed between shifts. A hurried lunch at Shake Shack, fingers sticky with fries. A midnight walk along the East River, ferry horns echoing our sighs. "We'll make it work," he'd say, kissing my temple, but doubt whispered otherwise. The betrayal came unannounced. A knife slipped between ribs on a sweltering July evening. I'd wrapped early, surprising him with takeout from his favorite halal cart, dreaming of collapsing together in the AC's hum. The dorm was quiet, Tyler subletting for the summer, and I let myself in, calling his name. No answer, but the bed was rumpled, sheets twisted like afterthoughts. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Tell your boy Toy to call me back. We weren't done last night." The world tilted, stomach plummeting. Who the hell was M? Flashes assaulted me. Jordan's late nights at the hospital. The way he dodged questions about his volunteer buddies. The faint cologne that wasn't his cedarwood lingering on his collar. I scrolled our texts, paranoia mining for clues. A deleted thread, an emoji too casual. When he walked in 20 minutes later, hair damp from a shower, eyes widening at the takeout bag on the desk, the lie was written on his face. "Alex, you're back early. Casual, too casual." I thrust the phone at him, the message glaring. His color drained, mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. "It's not shit, it's nothing. A mistake." But the pieces fit. The distance, the evasions, the way he'd pulled back after our fight, seeking solace in someone else's arms. Matt, I learned later. A fellow med student, charming and uncomplicated. No baggage of small-town expectations. "He gets it," Jordan stammered, tears streaking his cheeks. "The pressure, the future. You're still figuring, and I needed." Needed what? An out. The words echoed my own from months ago, twisted into weapons. Rage boiled, hot and unfamiliar, mingling with heartbreak that clawed at my throat. I was trying, Jordan. For us. He reached for me, but I jerked away. The bed. Our bed, now a battlefield. "I love you," he whispered, broken. "That's why it hurts so much." But love, I realized in that shattering moment, wasn't enough without trust. I stormed out, into the humid night, the city swallowing my sobs as I wandered aimlessly, betrayal a bitter taste on my tongue. The fallout was a slow-motion car crash. Every day a fresh skid mark on what we'd built. I crashed on a classmate's couch in Williamsburg, the lumpy futon a poor substitute for the warmth I'd lost, surrounded by half-read scripts and empty beer bottles. Jordan texted apologies in waves. "I'm sorry. Please talk. I fucked up. But I left them unread, a digital wall against the ache. Classes blurred into numbness. I'd sit through lectures on Mycenae, mind replaying his confession like a looped reel. The guilt in his eyes, the way his voice cracked on love. Friends tiptoed around it. Tyler muttering about rough patches. My film buddy Lena dragging me to poetry slams in the East Village to cleanse the palate. But poetry couldn't erase the echo of his laugh, or the ghost of his hand in mine. A week in, I caved not for reconciliation but clarity. We met at a neutral spot, the little park by the Tompkins Square dog run, benches worn smooth by generations of New Yorkers seeking solace. Pugs yipped and owners gossiped, the late summer sun slanting gold through the leaves. Jordan arrived disheveled, button down untucked, looking like he'd aged a decade. "Thanks for coming," he started, hands twisting in his lap. I cut him off, voice steel. "No bullshit." "Why?" The truth spilled then, halting and human. The internship's grind, the fear of losing himself in our intensity, Matt as a reckless rebound, stupid, selfish, fueled by panic. I thought if I could prove I was still free, it'd make the commitment less scary. But it just made everything worse. His vulnerability cracked my armor, tears pricking as I absorbed the messiness of it. Betrayal stung, but so did the realization that we'd both been scared. Me of labels, him of losing the one person who'd made him feel whole. "I pushed you away first," I admitted, scuffing my sneaker on the gravel. "Made you doubt if I was all in." We sat there as pigeons strutted by, the run's chaos a bomb, until he reached for my hand. I let him, tentative, the touch a lifeline. "Can we try again? Slower this time." His eyes pleaded, and against my better judgment, or maybe because of it, I nodded. Yeah, but no more secrets. Rebuilding was arduous, like rehab after a sprain. Small steps guarded trust. We kept the beds separate for a while, a symbolic reset, though the pull to merge them lingered. Study nights resumed, but with boundaries, doors open, texts transparent. Jordan threw himself into therapy, a campus counselor who specialized in queer relationships, emerging with journals full of reflections. "It's about owning my shit," he'd say over post-session smoothies at Joe and the Juice, vulnerability making him glow. I followed suit, unpacking my internalized fears in sessions that left me wrung out but lighter. "You're not broken for questioning," the therapist assured, her office overlooking Union Square's bustle. "You're growing." Fall semester 2.0 brought fresh winds. I threw myself into a thesis project, a featurette on hidden queer histories in Greenwich Village, interviewing elders who'd marched at Stonewall, their stories of resilience weaving through my footage like threads of gold. Jordan tagged along to shoots, holding the boom mic with med-student steadiness, his pride in me a quiet force. One interviewee, a wiry activist named Ray with tattoos mapping his arrests, pulled us aside after. "Saw that spark between you boys. Hold on to it. World'll try to snuff it out, but love like that's revolutionary." His words lingered, a talisman against the doubts. Yet conflict simmered anew, this time from external fires. Campus buzzed with election fever. Posters for candidates plastered on every lamppost, debates raging in the dining hall over rights and regressions. A conservative alumni donor pulled funding from the LGBTQ Center after a drag show sparked backlash, and protests erupted. Chants in the quad, die-ins on the steps of the library. Jordan and I dove in, marching arm in arm with signs reading "Love Wins." "Fight for it," the crowd's energy electric. But the vitriol hit home. Slurs scrawled on our door, anonymous emails flooding my inbox. "Faggots ruining NYU." One night, after a rally turned tense with counter-protesters shouting Bible verses, we barricaded ourselves in, hearts pounding. "This is why," Jordan said, back against the door, face pale. "The world's not kind to us." I pulled him close, our embrace fierce. "Then we make it kinder. Together." Intimacy deepened in those pressure cooker days. Not physical leaps, but emotional dives. We'd lie on the floor, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars we'd stuck up freshman year, trading dreams. His vision of a practice in underserved Brooklyn clinics, mine of a Sundance premiere with his name in the dedication. To Jordan, who taught me to inch closer, I'd tease, and he'd laugh, rolling to pin me in a mock wrestle, the playfulness easing the weight. Romance wove through the mundane, a mixtape of songs that mirrored our arc, from Sufjan Stevens' Tender Ache to Frank Ocean's Defiant Joy. Surprise notes slipped into backpacks, quoting E. Cummings. "I carry your heart with me, I carry it in my heart." Climax brewed in November, as leaves carpeted the paths in crimson decay. Jordan's internship evolved into a full-time offer, 6 figures, prestige, but a catch: relocation to Boston for advanced training. "It's a year, tops," he explained over dumplings at ZN Famous Foods, chopsticks hovering. "Then back to the city." But a year felt like eternity, a chasm widening between us. My thesis was peaking, shoots scheduled through spring, roots digging deeper into New York soil. "Long distance," I echoed, nausea rising. "We've barely survived a subway delay." He reached across the table, thumb stroking my knuckle. "We could, if we wanted enough." Doubt festered like an untreated wound. Nights devolved into arguments, him accusing me of clinging to the familiar, me firing back about his escape hatch. "Is this your out again? When it gets hard." The words were weapons drawn from old scars. One evening, after a screaming match that left us breathless, he packed a bag. "I need air," he said, voice hollow, door clicking shut behind him. Alone, I spiraled, pacing the room, replaying every inch, every kiss, every fracture. Betrayal's echo mingled with fear of loss, the humanistic truth staring back. Love demands risk, but survival whispers caution. He returned at midnight, rain-soaked and shivering, eyes red-rimmed. "I can't do this without you," he confessed, dropping to his knees on the threshold. "Boston's paper without you in it." Tears mixed with rain on his cheeks, and I hauled him up, our embrace desperate, bodies colliding like waves on rock. "Then stay," I begged, the words a leap, "or take me with you." We talked till dawn, compromises forging a path. Deferred start for him, remote thesis advising for me. It wasn't perfect, sacrifices loomed, but it was ours, forged in fire. Winter break tested the seams. Back in Ohio, the Harper family dinner table brimmed with turkey and tension. Mom's probing eyes over pie. "That Jordan. Such a nice boy. You two inseparable." I came out then, haltingly, over coffee in the living room, Dad's pipe smoke curling like question marks. Silence stretched, then Mom's hand on mine. "We've always loved you, Alex. All of you." Dad grunted approval, clapping my shoulder. "Proud of you, son." The acceptance a quiet miracle, humanistic in its simplicity. Jordan's call that night, from Seattle's rainy embrace, bridged the miles. "How'd it go?" "Better than scripted." Laughter bubbled, relief a shared breath. New Year dawned crisp, the city reborn in possibility. We rang it in at a rooftop party in Bushwick, fireworks exploding over the skyline as we kissed under a canopy of string lights, hands clasped against the chill. "To us," he toasted with plastic champagne flutes, eyes sparkling. The inchers. The romance felt solid now, tempered by trials. A deep, abiding affection that honored our flaws. Yet the plot twisted once more, a final conflict rising like a rogue wave. In February, during a thesis screening in the Tisch Auditorium, accolades flowed, claps for the editing, murmurs of festival potential. Jordan beamed from the front row, but as the Q&A wrapped, a producer from a Boston-based studio approached. "Kid, this has legs. Ever thought of grad school up north? We've got connections." The offer dangled. Funding, mentorship, a foot in the door. But it meant leaving now, mid-semester, Jordan's training be damned. The choice loomed, a climax of crossroads. Dinner that night at Peter Luger's. Steak rare, sides forgotten, was a minefield. "It's a chance," I said, knife slicing through tenderness. "For both of us." His fork clattered. "Or it's running. Again." Hurt flared, old wounds reopening. "You think I'm like you? Bailing when it's tough." The restaurant's hum faded, our table an island of storm. He stood, chair scraping. "Maybe we both are. Maybe this was always temporary." The door swung shut behind him, leaving me with a bill and a breaking heart. Wandering the streets of Brooklyn, snow flurrying like confetti from a cruel joke, I confronted the truth. Love wasn't a straight line, but a series of choices, each laced with loss. Betrayal had taught resilience, conflict, compassion. I hailed a cab back to the dorm, resolve hardening. He was there, packing again, duffel half-zipped. "Don't," I said, blocking the door. "Hear me out." The plea poured. The producer was a pipe dream, but we were real, flawed, human, irreplaceable. "I choose us. Every time." He searched my face, then deflated, bags slipping to the floor. "Me too." The kiss that followed was salt and salvation, bodies yielding in the lamplight. Spring unfurled its tentative grace, cherry blossoms dusting the quad like promises kept. With the Boston specter banished, we leaned into the now. Lazy Sundays at the farmer's market on Union Square, haggling over heirloom tomatoes. Impromptu picnics on the pier at sunset, feet dangling over the Hudson as gulls wheeled overhead. Jordan's ER shifts honed his edge, stories of midnight traumas shared over late-night ramen. Saved a kid tonight, overdose. Reminded me why I do this. I'd listen, chin on his shoulder, marveling at his quiet heroism, the way he carried the city's underbelly without buckling. My thesis wrapped with a bang. A panel of profs nodding through the final cut, whispers of Tribeca submission. The high carried us into May, graduation caps and gowns a surreal blur. We walked the stage together, alphabetically adjacent, cheers erupting as our names boomed. Alexander Harper. Jordan Ellis. Diplomas in hand, we posed under the arch, his arm around my waist, the photo a snapshot of triumph. Post-ceremony, families converged. My parents beaming from Ohio, his mom and stepdad flying in from the coast. Dinner at Carmine's was a whirlwind. Toasts clinking, laughter bridging generations. To new beginnings, Dad said, raising his glass, eyes misty. Jordan's mom pulled me aside later, her hug fierce. Thank you for loving my boy. He lights up around you. The words humbled, a reminder of the ripples our story sent. But humanism demands shadows with light, and summer tested our mettle. Post-grad limbo hit hard. Jordan's Mount Sinai residency starting in July. A brutal gauntlet of 70-hour weeks. My freelance gigs sporadic, rejection emails piling like unread mail. Money strained, the dorm lease expiring, forcing a scramble for a one-bedroom in the LES. Cramped but hours with a fire escape for stargazing. Moving day was chaos. Boxes teetering, pizza-fueled banter masking exhaustion. That night, christening the space with thrift store sheets on a queen mattress. No more twins. We made love for the first time. Not as conquest but communion. Slow, reverent, bodies mapping familiar territories with new intent. Whispers of I love you, sealing the bond. Intimacy brought depths uncharted. Mornings tangled in sunlight. His head on my chest as NPR droned traffic updates. Evenings cooking disasters. Burnt stir-fries redeemed by wine and wit. We navigated the mundane with grace. His post-shift decompressions, my script deadlines. Finding romance in the grit. A weekend escape to the Catskills. Borrowed car rattling up winding roads. Yielded hikes through fern-choked trails. A cabin with a clawfoot tub where we soaked away the city's grime. This is us, he said, tracing my collarbone with sudsy fingers. Unscripted, unpolished. I kissed him then, water sloshing, the forests hush our witness. Conflict resurfaced in autumn's amber haze, subtle at first, Jordan's hours eclipsing days, texts curt with fatigue. Stuck in or again, miss you. I'd wait up, cold takeout congealing, resentment simmering. My career stuttered, a short film greenlit but underfunded, forcing compromises that chafed. You're drifting, he observed one rare night off. Over Thai delivery on the fire escape. Into what? I snapped, the accusation landing too close. Into resentment? Watching you chase dreams while I hustle barista shifts. The words hung, toxic, exposing the fracture. Success's uneven tide, pulling us in different currents. Betrayal's specter loomed when I stumbled on old messages. Matt, innocuous check-ins from Boston, but laced with nostalgia. Miss our talks. You holding up? Jordan swore it was platonic, ancient history. But trust's scar tissue tore. Why keep contact? I demanded, voice rising in our shoebox kitchen. Pots clanging like punctuation. Closure, he claimed, but eyes darted. Evasion a red flag. The fight escalated. Accusations flying, doors slamming. Ending with him crashing on the couch. Me in bed alone. Sheets cold as accusation. Days blurred into standoffs. Communication reduced to logistics. Laundry's done. Rent's due. Friends mediated. Lena hosting interventions over coffee at Housing Works. Tyler cracking wise at dive bars. But the chasm widened. A climax crested in October, during a film fest afterparty at the Angelica. I'd scored a pass. Networking with indie darlings. Jordan joining late after a double shift. Scrubs swapped for jeans. The crowd buzzed. Handshakes. Pitch meetings. And there, across the lobby, was Matt. Taller, polished, clapping Jordan on the back with easy familiarity. Fancy seeing you here, Matt grinned. Hug lingering a beat too long. Jealousy ignited, irrational but fierce. I excused myself to the bathroom, splashing water on a face burning with doubt. Confrontation brewed on the subway home. F-train rattling like my nerves. What the hell was that? I hissed, car half empty. Jordan sighed, exhaustion etching lines. Networking. He's in pharma now, could hook me up for future gigs. But the hug replayed, intimacy I couldn't unsee. Or rekindling? The accusation drew blood. His face hardened. You still don't trust me. After everything. The train screeched to a halt at our stop, doors hissing open like escape. He bolted, me trailing, the argument spilling onto Delancey Street's neon glare. I'm tired, Alex, of proving myself, of your ghosts. Tears streaked his cheeks, mirroring mine. Then leave. I choked, the words a dare and a plea. He did, hailing a cab to his mom's hotel, leaving me adrift in the night. Solitude was a harsh teacher. Nights spent on the fire escape, city lights blurring through tears. I replayed our arc. The inching, the kisses, the fractures mended and remade. Humanism whispered that love wasn't flawless. Betrayals healed with time. Conflicts clarified intent. But was ours salvageable, or a story ended too soon? Days turned to a week. Radio silence broken by a single text. Coffee? Neutral ground. The shop on Orchard was our old haunt, mismatched mugs steaming between us. I reached out to Matt. He started, voice steady. Told him we're done, friends or otherwise. For good. Proof flashed. Screenshot of the block. Finality in pixels. And me, I whispered. He leaned forward, hand hovering. I choose you. Every messy, beautiful inch. Reconciliation flowered slowly, therapy joint now. Sessions unpacking envy, rebuilding trust brick by vulnerable brick. We're not static, the counselor said, overlooking the Williamsburg Bridge's span. Growth means evolving together. We did. Date nights enforced. No phones dinners at home-cooked feasts. Weekend retreats to Coney Island, boardwalk laughs defying the chill. Romance rekindled in embers. Notes in lunch bags, you're my plot twist. Slow dances in the living room to Coltrane records, bodies swaying to unspoken vows. Winter's grip tightened, but so did our hold. Holiday cards arrived. My parents' warm scrawl inviting him home, his family's plane tickets to Ohio booked. Christmas in the Midwest was a revelation. Snow-blanketed fields, mom's cinnamon rolls, dad teaching Jordan chess by the fire. Your family now, dad said over mulled cider, the words a bomb. New Year's in Seattle followed, rain-slick streets and his mom's lax, stepdad's bear hugs sealing inclusion. You've got a good one, she confided, watching us from the kitchen. The journeys humanized us, flaws exposed, accepted, loved. Yet the narrative crested toward resolution, a final trial in March's thaw. Jordan's residency review loomed, a panel grilling his cases, future hanging in balance. Sleepless nights ensued, him pacing with flashcards, me massaging tension from his shoulders. What if I bomb? He'd murmur, doubts surfacing like ice flows. Then you try again. I'd counter, pulling him down. You're brilliant. The day arrived stormy, skies weeping over the East River. I waited in the lobby, thumbing through a dog-eared Vonnegut, heart sinking with the clock's ticks. He emerged hours later, face unreadable, then broke into a grin. Promotion secured, commendations for poise under pressure. Couldn't have without you, he said, sweeping me into a hug that drew stares. Celebration spilled into the streets. Dim sum at Nam Wah, then a ramble through Chinatown's lanterns, hands clasped against the drizzle. To surviving, we toasted with baijiu shots, warmth spreading. That night, in our bed, now a sanctuary of shared dreams, we made plans. A road trip come summer, Route 66 Redux, chasing horizons together. Suspense lingered in small doses. My film's festival nod, anxious screenings. His first solo procedure, nail-biting updates. But we faced them as partners, emotions raw and romantic. Tears at a rejection softened by his embrace. Triumphs amplified by shared cheers. The humanism shone in the ordinary. Grocery runs debating kale versus spinach, lazy mornings debating nothing at all. As summer beckoned, with its promise of open roads and open hearts, I reflected on our story. From that first inch in the dorm, through betrayals that bent but didn't break, we'd emerged scarred but stronger. A testament to love's tenacity, its capacity for redemption. Jordan, sensing my reverie one evening on the fire escape, laced our fingers. Worth it? He asked, stars winking above. I turned, kissing him slow and sure. Every inch. The road trip materialized like a fever dream. Our beat-up Prius, courtesy of Jordan's stepdad, devouring asphalt under a relentless July sun. Route 66 stretched before us, a ribbon of history from Chicago's neon sprawl to Santa Monica's surf-kissed piers, pit stops mapped with whimsy. Cadillac Ranch for spray paint graffiti, Merrimack Caverns for echoey adventures. We blasted playlists curated for moods, heartbreak anthems for dusty stretches, soulful crooners for sunset drives. Windows down, wind-whipping confessions free. Remember that first study night? Jordan mused, hand on my thigh as Oklahoma plains blurred by. Felt like jumping off a cliff. I laughed, squeezing back. Best leap ever. Detours deepened the romance. A bluegrass jam in a Missouri holler, fiddles weaving our story. Stargazing in New Mexico's black velvet skies. His head in my lap as we named constellations after inside jokes. Conflicts arose petty. A flat tire in the Texas panhandle sparking bickering over AAA apps, but dissolved in shared sweat. Lug nuts loosened to the rhythm of reconciliation. We're good at this now, he said, wiping grease from his brow, kiss tasting of exertion and endearment. Humanism pulsed in encounters. A diner waitress in Arizona sharing her son's coming-out tale over pie. Her yawl remind me of young love, a bridge across generations. Santa Monica Pier crowned the quest. Ferris wheel gondola swaying as the Pacific crashed below. We made it, I said, salt air tangling our hair. He pulled a ring from his pocket. Not diamond flash, but intertwined silver bands, etched with coordinates of our dorm room. Not proposing, he clarified, eyes twinkling, but promising, whatever comes. Tears pricked as I slid it on, metal cool against skin. Yes to all of it. The wheel crested, city lights igniting like fireflies. Our kiss a vow etched in motion. Back in New York, reality resumed its hustle, but transformed. My film premiered at Tribeca. Standing ovation, distribution whispers, Jordan in the audience, his cheers loudest. His residency stabilized, shifts balanced with wellness checks. We volunteered at the center, mentoring wide-eyed freshmen navigating their own inchings. Betrayal's ghost faded to lesson, conflicts to catalysts. Our bond a living screenplay, dramatic yet grounded. Years folded like chapters. My directorial debut at Sundance, his clinic opening in Bed-Stuy. Patience gratitude a chorus to our harmony. Family wove tighter. Ohio Thanksgivings with rainbow flags on the porch. Seattle barbecues where he taught my niece guitar. Romance evolved. Anniversaries marked with custom reels of our highlights. Quiet nights where words sufficed as touch. One crisp October eve, a decade post-storm, we returned to Washington Square. Arch aglow, performers strumming familiar tunes. Full circle, Jordan said, arm around me as leaves swirled. I nodded, heart full, and still inching closer. The story, dramatic and gate-song, emotional and romantic, ended not in tragedy's sigh but humanism's embrace. Love as verb, enduring, alive. In the end, it was never about the bed or the night that started it. It was the choice, repeated daily, to bridge the gaps, to feel the pull and answer. And in that American tapestry of grit and grace, we thrived. Two guys, one story, forever entwined.